Good day to everyone. As the MC had stated, my name is Pat Passer. I'm here to talk to you about vigilance, innovation, and adaptability in the cyber world. Most of you may be wondering, we live in quite extraordinary times. You know, if you look at what we can do digitally, it's amazing what the cyber market has done in the last 10 to 12 years. If you consider the type of jobs that we had previously, the types of jobs that are currently being created, the way things are being organized, and the way the environment is moving in terms of the expansion and the explosion in the digital world. What you can do these days using your mobile phone or your tablet, just having internet connectivity is just amazing. The other day, as an example, it just fascinated me as to how far organizations and customer service experiences have transgressed in terms of the digital revolution. I applied for a loan the other day, and amazingly, I didn't have to go into a branch. I didn't meet a single representative of the branch or the bank, and I was granted a loan within 2 days, all done virtually. Now, the question is, how does an organization like a financial institution, which is highly regulated, actually employ these sort of digital services to encourage? Because think about it. Your digital world, your physical world, very different, right? Yet we apply the same mindsets in terms of how we deal with the risk. It's completely a different category of people. It's a different category of crime. It's a different category of vested interest. It's not just about money, it's about data. It's about what I can do with that data and how I can manipulate that data. So just to talk to you, today what I'm going to attempt to do is navigate the domain that we currently live in, which is the cybersecurity domain. Now, many of you are in the cybersecurity space, but let me ask you a very simple question. Don't have to ask, it's a rhetorical question. What is the difference between information security and cybersecurity? Do they converge at any point? Are you a cybersecurity specialist or an information security specialist? That's very fundamental in terms of how you delve into what is within your ambit and what is within your domain. Okay? I've been fortunate enough that I've been in the industry for 25 years. I was the first global appointed CISO of the Standard Bank Group. So some of the things that you would have experienced was actually invented by myself and the Standard Bank Group. So things like one-time password is actually invented by myself. Cardless banking, invented by a South African, by myself. If you look at some of the other things that we have done, which is revolutionized the digital world, is where you can go and open an account. How does this all transpire in terms of how do I authenticate you? Remember what I said. We live in two different worlds. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, we lived in a very physically dominated world. Currently, we live in a digitally dominated world. Yet, how does the authentication apply? How was I able to get a loan approved without me walking into a branch, without me interacting with a single representative of a branch? It comes down to the enormous work that you guys do, which is cybersecurity. The most fundamental aspect of this is authentication, access. How do I authenticate an individual securely and ensure that the person that I'm dealing with is the correct individual to be transacting with? And that's where cybersecurity plays a fundamental role in terms of determining the future landscape of how we interact with our customers. When I started off in cybersecurity or information security, as I like to call it, it was a little department in the corner office that just dealt with antivirus and access management and so forth. When we transformed the organization, I had 120 people and I was at the forefront of the digital transformation of Standard Bank. That's what cybersecurity professionals should be looking at, is how do you participate in transforming a society and an organization securely so that they can fundamentally work in the digital world. We're not going to reverse this, okay? It's too good. If you look at the convenience all of us partake in, I can literally speak to my mum who traveled to California all through digital means. It didn't feel like she left the country because I still had immediate connectivity with her. That's how powerful it has become. And fundamentally for us, we have to change our mindset. What frustrates me as a veteran, and I call myself a veteran in cybersecurity, is the mindset change. It has not occurred. We still apply old techniques and methods to address new age threats. If you look at it, to address a cybersecurity environment or to address an organization that is on the digital transformation, it's fundamental that you have the right skill set. You can't have a person who is a physical guard being a cybersecurity professional. Yet, in those two worlds, they play a similar role. They are protectors. But it's a different caliber of individual that you require to actually address the cyber risk. Okay? And if you look at it, it's not a constant. The one thing that is changing, that you need to familiarize yourself with cybersecurity is the constant change. If I look at it, sorry, I was born a long time ago. Prior to the invention of cell phones, let's talk about that. When last were you excited about an invention? The last time I was very excited is when I got my Nokia phone. That was the last time I was seriously excited about inventions because that gave me the ability to do things. But if you look at what's going on now, the rate of acceleration in terms of change, in terms of digitization, has made us numb. Okay? We just take it. If you look at it, I'm going to ask another rhetorical question. I presume all of you have smartphones. Okay? I presume all of you, some of you may have kids. Okay, I see some young people here may not have kids. How many of you, when you handed a cell phone to your kid, how many of you took the time to actually educate that child in terms of the nuances, the dangers, the ramifications of a cell phone? Because let me tell you, when I started off in cybersecurity or information security, I had this big desktop, not even a laptop, okay? And now you look at it, what I can do on this little device is amazing. It's just frightening, okay? Consider this. We have empowered not just your employees, but everyone with the ability to connect, right? But yet we have not figured out the difficulties or the challenges with this device, okay? So, importantly to notice, to understand is that your strategies has to keep on evolving. It's not something that stays constant. When I was at the bank and we had, and just to give you an example of the landscape we were dealing with, at that time, Standard Bank had 70,000 employees across multiple jurisdictions, okay? How do you actually handle an organization of that nature who is moving forward but has this old mentality in terms of how? So the first thing I did when I became the CISO was to empower my executives. Meaning empowering my executives is to reduce the complexity and the mystification of cybersecurity, because we like acronyms, right? Because it confuses the shit out of other people, right? And we look so bloody smart, okay? However, what I did was I flipped it around. I'm going to talk business language to you. So when the CEO came to me and he said, Pat, we've got a huge problem in terms of adoption of internet banking or the virtual channels. What was the biggest reason behind it? We went and did a whole research on it. Was fear, trust, okay? So what we did was, in order to move my 7 million customers onto a digital platform, what I did was, we looked at what was the key aspect. How do I authenticate the individual securely so that I can give him a sense of comfort? Because that's what you are servicing. It's the customer experience, all right, at the end of the day. We think of it as in bytes and controls and audits and all of that. No, it's all about customer experience, okay? The customer wants to feel, he wants convenience, he wants security, and he wants to make sure that you are protecting him, okay? So that's when we introduced one-time password. Now, not many people would realize this. The transformation of Standard Bank started 30 years ago. Okay? When we introduced, in 1996, when we introduced internet banking. Okay? That's when the transformation of Standard Bank began. What we were trying to do was move every individual onto the digital platform. So, how many of you realize, I think the CEO of Standard Bank came out and he said, Standard Bank is 99% digital. So if you look at it, I live in the northern suburbs. I have one branch of Standard Bank available to me. There's nothing else. Previously, there were about 20 in the Sandton area. Okay? Now, think about the importance of that, because this is where you have to realize that you are actually contributing to the organization. Okay? Fundamentally, you are there to increase the profitability of an organization, increase your customer base, increase and improve on the customer experience. Okay? So, what we had done was, we looked at authentication, authorization, and so forth, introduced one-time password. At the moment, Standard Bank is true to their word, 99% digital. What is the benefit of Standard Bank? Besides the convenience for the customer experience, we reduced our operating cost. Because it was costing us to run a branch like the Sandton branch, it was costing us 100 million a year. Okay? Whereas now, we don't have those costs. So our cost to income ratio improved. Guess what? Cybersecurity, because we sorted out authorization and authentication, fundamental to any transaction. Okay? So this is how you have to consider the world. Okay? So if, I said we live in fascinating times because there's jobs that people that never existed previously that suddenly became very influential, like social media, social influences. Okay? If you look at it, when I was doing the research around this, it was fascinating for me to understand the different types of influences we have. We all know the Kim Kardashians and so forth. I'm talking familiar stuff for you. So, we all understand the celebrity guys, right? But do you know that there's macro level of influences? That is at enterprise organizational level. Then you have the micro, which is within your community. And then you have the nano, which is the very small guys. Okay? And if you just look at the figures that we're talking about, and why I picked on social influences, because we are all influenced by them in some form or the other. We all follow. Okay? And I'm going to ask a very simple question, because most of you are very educated and understand the threat landscape and the risk landscape. Did you vet these guys? So we just follow blindly. So this is what I'm talking about. When you're transgressing, or when you are traversing the cyber world or the digital world, be a little cautious as to who you believe, what you believe, how you interact, and so forth. A lot of these social influences, like Jay Manzini and so forth, were arrested for fraud because they used it because we are naive and we think everything on this is genuine. Right? There's a lot of misinformation. So this is how your threat landscape is changing. I mean, the other day my colleagues and I were talking about it because we look at the threat landscape on a daily basis. Right? And we're looking at how the migration of the attacks are not just at an enterprise, they're targeting your home routers. So please, as a lesson, just go home today and change your password as an example. Okay? Every 3 months you should be changing your router. Okay? And we talk about this because it's so fundamental in terms of how the connectivity occurs. I will give you an example of how a fraudster applies his mind. Some of you may be familiar with the MGM attack. The casinos in Las Vegas were down for 10 days. Can you imagine a casino not operating for 10 days because of a ransomware attack? And I will show you how sophisticated yet smart, right? That's easy to accomplish because of a human factor. The human factor when it comes to cybersecurity plays a fundamental role. Okay? It's more important nowadays with how you deal with the human factor because the MGM hack occurred, which cost MGM billions of dollars, right? and affected the reputation of the organization. Because literally, you couldn't get into your room. That's how sophisticated the attack. But if you look at the way it was manipulated and the way it was actually rolled out and executed, it was credential management. Simple credential management. Okay? Now, I was speaking to you earlier about the mindset. Think of this. Okay? We've moved from one planet to another. We've literally moved from a physical planet into a digital planet. But how do we think about security? How do we think about threats? How do we manage this? We have not compelled ourselves as yet to rethink our strategies. Have we sat down with business? How many of you have sat down with your business units? Because you are a service provider. If you don't realize it as yet, you as a cybersecurity professional is a service provider to business. You do not sit on top. You actually enable business. Okay? So leave the egos aside when you talk to business as an advice to you guys. Just leave your egos aside. It's very important to understand your role in an organization. You are here to enable the business to do a transaction securely. Most people, cybersecurity individuals, professionals, do not consider themselves as a servant to business. So, if you look at it, we work in the physical world, in the digital world, yet we apply physical technologies to solve the problem. Okay? Doesn't make sense. If you look at cyber, there's no boundaries, there's no borders, there's no laws in some countries. When I apprehended the first syndicate that I apprehended, which was a multinational operating out of Estonia, okay, and I'm going to say a few things, please, they're controversial, but this is the reality and it's pragmatic. When it comes to cybersecurity and the defense that you have, take your rule book and just flung it out. Okay, what I did with the Estonia attack, we picked up that there was an attack emanating from Estonia, not just targeting standard banks, targeting all multinational banks. So the FNBs, the ABSAs, Citibank in America, Bank of America, all were targeted. So we picked up, and there's a lot of work, and I can take me a whole day to explain the case to you. But the way we managed to isolate, okay, so anyone knows what's an NZ catcher? Okay, a cell phone interceptor, okay? So, think of this. This broadcast, most people use this to commit fraud, right? Or a mobile, tablet or whatever. My problem is, how do I get, can I get close to you with this? No. Because it will give me just a tower. Okay, it will tell me you're in the vicinity of Kyalami or Gallagher State, but it won't tell me where Gallagher State. So an MZ capture, literally, and I illustrate it, will bring me down to 3 meters off you. Okay? So what I did was, we brought in equipment, right, from the MI6 guys, okay, because they have the equipment. And I tracked the individual down to within 3 meters and I caught him red-handed. Okay, obviously I can't arrest the guy as a normal citizen, so we have the Hawks with us to arrest the guy. Okay? And it just shows that it becomes so difficult to commit. So therefore, you look at your fraudsters. What are your fraudsters looking at? Number one, there's no borders. So where's the jurisdiction? Okay? I do understand the law because I'm also a lawyer, so I do understand the jurisdictional issues. So number one is, you can't charge me. I've got no laws to be charged. I didn't commit an act against my state. So now the difficulty is, how do you actually arrest, apprehend, and convict? Forget your money. If your money goes out of your account, it's gone. And I'm going to say, there's a stark reality. You are all going to fall victim to a cybercrime, a digital crime. Okay? Whether it's a scam, whether through LinkedIn, whether you use weak password, you are going to be a victim. Unfortunately, that's the reality. Okay? It even applies to me. Okay? And I have been a victim to it. Okay? Simply because at an ATM, there's certain areas that you have no control over. Okay? So you have to be vigilant, and that's why we talk about vigilance. Okay? In cybersecurity, you got to realize that it's not a technical problem. Okay? How many of you find yourself very frustrated in your organization because everyone thinks it's a technical problem? It's not just a technical problem. In order to effectively manage security, you've got to have the people, the process, and the technology. Technology is your last layer. Now, I know that most of you with the propaganda and my sales team is going to kick my ass when I get out of here. I'm going to say something. Just do not go and buy a piece of technology. Understand what the problem you are trying to solve. Understand how you want to solve that problem. Build it first. Conceptualize it first. Implement it, because the governance, the processes are so critical to make a technology work. And I'm going to give you an example. A lot of you throughout your careers would say technology doesn't work. It's the processes and the fact that you didn't execute it correctly. The technologies, 90% of them, whether it's a semantic, whether it's a McAfee, whether it's, don't get offended guys, but they're all about the same. Right? And they will give you adequate protection. But it's fundamental how you actually execute it. Okay? As I said, the rules of cybersecurity are very different. Okay? So try to understand it. Okay? You can't apply physical rules to this world. Okay? And as usual, human beings are very enthusiastic, and I'm one of them. You know, when you've got a solution, you want to go with it, right? When digitization started coming to the fore, people just moved ahead. What happened to governments? There was a whole new cadre of transactability, fraud, etc. But there was no laws governing it. So some countries that you work in, like especially the Eastern Bloc countries, do not have any legislation or regulation around this. GDPR means F all in some of those countries. Your data protection laws mean bugger all. Okay? It's all rubbish to them. Okay? If you look at certain states, they actually employ people to actually counter-hack people. If you look at the Russians, what are they doing to the Estonians at the moment? What are they called? Sorry, I forget. Ukrainians. Okay? If you look at what they're doing, you know, the infrastructure being held to ransom. All of those sort of things are sponsored, state-sponsored. Okay? And Russia doesn't have laws for a particular reason. I'll give you a little sidebar. When I was still starting, when I was much younger and I was starting off in cybersecurity, I'm a kind of a foolish guy. I like to try things out and see what happens. So there was a scam that was occurring. So what I did was, we said, okay, let's try this. Let's put $5,000 into a MoneyGram and try and track it, right? And see where it actually goes to, right? So we went into a MoneyGram and I took $5,000 and we paid it over, right? So we fell victim to a scam. We transferred the money. It was picked up in St. Petersburg, Russia. Okay? One of the major cities, the second major city in Russia. St. Petersburg in a MoneyGram. Okay? A money transfer environment. I've got a picture of the guy. I've got a guy going in there and so forth. Now what do I do? You see the uncharted territories we're talking about? What do I do with that information? I've got all this information. Found the SAPs. Are you crazy? You're talking about Russia here, guys. Who do you call? Found Interpol. Same issues, right? You just cannot convict. Okay? So those are the challenges that you have. And if your organization loses money, you're not going to get it back. Sorry. It's going to happen. Okay? Now, you know, when I was at varsity and I'm an academic, I love studying. 90% was awesome, right? Look at it now. 90% protection is absolute rubbish. Okay, that's how I would regard it. Okay, it's absolute rubbish. Okay, now if you think about it, you're only as strong as your weakest link. Could not be more truer than now. Okay, you could have the best antivirus, you could have the best IPSs, you could have the best defense mechanisms. Okay, but if one computer is not patched correctly, I'm in. Okay, I'm in. the other thing is, if you do not educate your staff in terms of credential management, password management, in the importance of cybersecurity, and please just do not use just videos to do this. Okay, it's more interactive when you actually discuss and educate your people, because your first line of defense is your employees, is your staff. Okay, the MGM attack, which was 10 days, was due to a staff member being negligent with their credentials. Promise you, we are the only organization in South Africa or in Africa that works with the gaming industry in particular, right? We do audits all across the world. We do pen testing and hacking and breach testing all across the world for the Betways, the Betfreds, the Hollywood Bets, all of these guys, all the online environments we actually manage. And I'll tell you now, when we do the assessment from an ethical hacking perspective, and we look at how we can get in, guarantee you 60% of the time, I'm not hacking you. I'm actually borrowing credentials that somebody mismanaged. And that's how I'm getting into your organization. Okay? So the MGM was not a hack. I used credentials to get in. I just manipulated the whole situation. Okay? Yes, I was unauthorized to get into your organization, but it was not a hack. It was some uneducated, ill-informed employee that let you be compromised. Okay? So just remember, 90% is not good. And your staff, single point of failure. Single point of failure. Okay? And I'll tell you this. So most of you are hybrid workers, correct? Why? And you enjoy it. Why? How many of you have actually employed on your personal devices? Don't throw up your hand. I just want you to think about it. How many of you have, okay, you can answer this question. How many of you have personal laptops? Not company related, personal laptops. Come on. There's more of you. I know it. Okay? Tablets. All of you, right? How many of you bought an antivirus or an EDR at your cost? Oh. We got some good Samaritans, right? Okay? So think about it like this. Now, I allow you to work at home, but you do not have the right security features. That means I don't have to target your enterprise. I come through your home environment. Okay? And I gain access to you. And I just sit there. So you all remember, I'm going to give you an example. In 2013, I think it was, am I right, Vishen? The Standard Bank was hit for 300 million in Japan, which was an ATM fraud, right? So it was a digital hack, okay, of the environment, but conducted in the physical space. The crime was conducted the extraction of the money was conducted in the physical space, which is the ATM. So most of you will not realize this if you're not from the banking sector. You know your little hotel access cards for your room? I can take that and I can get it into an ATM card. And it'll work at an ATM. It works on a magstripe. Okay, there's two types of cards. You have a magstripe card and a chip card. So the default is always magstripe, because most of the countries globally default to magstripe. I can literally take that and rewrite magstripe, and I'll be able to get into your bank accounts, right? If I have your details. So in the Standard Bank hack in 2013, they got into the bank. They got all the BIN numbers. So what a BIN number is, your 16-digit or 18-digit credit card number. Okay, with your CVC, which is your 3 digits, and so forth. Now, based on the algorithms, I can work out your PIN. Okay. So what they did was they harvested the data, took it to the physical world, found an opportune time where Japan is 8 hours ahead of us. We'll be sleeping. Within a 45-minute period, they will do 300 million. Okay? Within a 5 kilometer radius. Now, what is the probability of Standard Bank recovering the money? 0. Okay, the insurance would cover it, but for them to actually recover the money, for them to trace it, was totally enormous. Okay? And let me give you an example, because we did some of the forensics. They sat in their network for 9 months, harvesting the information. That's how patient a criminal is. Okay? Now, we're going to talk about, I just want to get this, right? If you look at it, what is accelerating the crime? If you think about it now, businesses, what is the face of a business these days? It's your digital footprint, right? It's your website, it's your applications. All of that is becoming the face of your organization, right? So if you think about it, we have brought in a level of convenience and progression that is second to none. You know, the human beings have not seen progression and acceleration in innovation as we are in the present time. So we are very fortunate to live in the times that we are. Okay, if you look at it. But with it comes huge amount of risks. Like everything in life, there's good and there's bad. Okay, you invent something great, they'll find a loophole to it. Okay, it's like yin and yang. Okay, you've got to have both to balance the world. And this is the problem that we have. We have new complex risks that we have introduced into the world that can be exploited. Okay, and if you think about it, the importance of cybersecurity is simple. $6 trillion will be spent on cybersecurity globally. Okay? And that shows the importance of the job that you are doing. You're no more that corner guy that is sitting and just managing antivirus. You are actually at the forefront of your organization in terms of its progression. As I mentioned, I'm going to be quite quick with these because I know I'm running out of time. Cybersecurity is multifaceted. I think we all agree with that, right? You have to have, I saw outside one of the vendors actually presenting the Onion, a fantastic reflection of how cybersecurity. It's layered. You have to have that. That's the level of protection. So go with your layered approach, but also become innovative in terms of the way you address it. Now, from my experience, from my team's experience, and what we have found is people forget, and we've done it sequentially with the level of importance. Most important, and which most of you neglect in your organization, is the human factor. Okay? Now I'll show you some stats. 85% of most online crime due to human factor. Mismanagement of credentials, password, all of those sort of things. We got the data factor. Now this is the complexity and the uncharted territories we talk about. Because in the physical world, why would I rob your house? For a financial benefit, right? I want to steal something, I want to steal money. If I want to go and hold up a SUV van, I want cash, right? But here, the criminal has a multi-pronged approach. He's got so many benefits he's going to get. He gets cash, he can have access to that. He gets your digital identity, which I can utilize to commit further crime. He can get access to data, which is a currency for him. Okay? If any one of you have, let me do a Disney Channel, go and watch Russian hackers. Okay? And you'll see the amount of money that a hacker makes. 10 years ago, when I was privy to this, he was earning $250,000 a month, working for less than a week. That's how valuable it is. If you look at the chasm between you as a corporate defender, cybersecurity defender, compared to a hacker, you are at such a disadvantage. Number one, you've got bureaucracy to handle. You've got to handle your boss who just doesn't understand things. Okay? You've got to handle, how about those meetings? Any bloody bore, right? I mean, seriously, most meetings should take 5 minutes. Okay? You've got all of that. Furthermore, your job is 8 to 5. Okay? And your motivation is not like the other guy, because you work for a salary, whereas he's working for $250,000. Who's going to work harder? Okay? Consider that. Okay? And that's what I talk about, the mind shift change. Mindset change. You need to understand cybersecurity is not a part-time job. It's not an 8 to 5 job. It's a 24/7. Okay? You have to be willing to commit to it. Alright? And you'll see a slide that we put. Is cybersecurity too hard? No, it's not. Okay? It just means that you have to be committed to it. Okay. We speak about the human behavior or the human factor. And if you look at it, the UBAs that have come out are quite phenomenal. The EDRs that have behavioral aspects are very important. It's how you manage your employees. First line of defense is your employees, right? Ensure that they are doing the right things. Get the right tool sets in so that you have visibility of what your employees are doing, right? So that you can take the corrective action, okay? So now, please, this always frustrated me, and when I go to most of my clients, I always tell them, can I use some French? But on a serious note, when I go to my clients, I ask them, well, why are you doing it like this? Okay? Because I will tell you, I go to clients, and because I'm regarded as an employee or an advisor, I have to go for the training. Now, why are you training me on something that I already know? Train me on something. So what I'm trying to say is customize. Using behavior analytics to determine the training that's appropriate for the individual. Okay? Do not try to inundate the guy with too much. The most important thing is if you're unsure of something, call the security team. That is it. Get that message out. Okay? Fundamentally, we try to educate to the point where they must have my knowledge. No. You've got your own job to do. I just want you to do it according to a certain standard. Okay? It's important to do that. Okay, if you look at the phishing attacks, they're just going on. And why would hackers still persist with this? Because it's financially viable. It still works. Okay? How many of you have got those videos that you have every quarter you send out to your people? But trust me, they still get phished. Okay? Then if you look at it, the data, as I said to you, criminals these days are good, compared to the past criminals, which is your physical criminal guys. You look at it, they looked at money. Cash was their currency. That's what they were looking for. These guys are looking for much more than that. They're not just looking for cash. They're looking for your data. How can you utilize that data to make it? Okay. Right, your digital identity is so important. So all of you think you have one identity. Let me correct you immediately. You have two. You have your physical SA identity document, whichever one, and then you have your digital identity. I want your digital identity because, as I said to you earlier, connect the dots. I could do a transaction for millions without meeting a single individual from the bank. Okay? Why would they want my digital identity? Do you understand? Okay? So it's fundamental to understand what they're looking for and how you protect it. You can't protect everything. It's impossible. So, take a risk-based approach to what's critical. So how many of you have full visibility of your data, where it is positioned in your organization, how it is housed, what are the controls to it, and who has access to it? That is fundamentally what you need to do to start off with. Because then you can manage your data, which is the critical currency. Your employees are not the most important to our people. Your data is the most important. I mean the important aspect. Okay? If you look at it, you are the public sector. 21% data breaches by sector. Okay? That's what you guys are sitting at. Top causes of secure data breaches. 85% of data breaches are due to our first line of defense, which is our staff. And that's why we start with the human factor. Most people neglect the human factor. They go for the hardcore technical solution. But they forget that you can have all of that, which is great, but I can break in. I can walk in with the criminal. And then all your billion-dollar solutions do not work. They're ineffective. Single point of failure. Okay? Now, I presume a lot of you have moved to the cloud at some point or a hybrid version. So what is your network these days? And this is the conundrum that you have to answer. What is your network? Please understand how far do you extend. Now most of you would think, this is my network, this is my physical network, my perimeter, the old-fashioned perimeter. Okay, I've got my IPS, I've got my firewall, my router, etc. And then I have a hybrid, which is cloud. What about your third parties? Because they extend your network. Okay, have you considered your third party as part of your pyramid? Okay, because you are giving them access to come into your environment. That's extending your network. So most people do not consider the full ecosystem that you currently manage. As CISOs or as IT professionals, do you understand how far and where do you start and where do you end? No, you don't. Okay? If you look at it, you want to concentrate on your core elements. It's important to understand how your third party supports you. I consult to, as I said to you, some multinationals. One of them has over 10,000 third parties, critical third parties that connect to their network. So their network is massive. So it means that they have to take accountability to protect that beyond the traditional needs. Okay. Okay, we spoke about, I'm going to share the presentation with you, but I think it's important that we get the app factor. Is fundamental. It's also the face of an organization. So if you think about it, Standard Bank's banking app is my interaction. It's my branch. Okay? So when I interact with that, okay, is it secure? Can I trust it? Can I get assurance on it? So when you're building an app, okay, for your organization, are you building it with security at the beginning, or is it an afterthought? Do we have, what we call it security by design, okay, where you are baked into the SDLC process? Okay, I'll give you an example, something that I'm very proud of. When I was at Standard Bank, there was not a single project that was driven out that didn't go through security. 70,000 employees, over 8 billion is spent on the side on IT. Can you imagine the number of projects? We signed off on every single project because we were baked in. It was part of the DNA of the organization. What people do not realize is cybersecurity is the DNA, core DNA of your organization. Without the right controls in place, your business cannot survive. Okay, because people like the opposites of me will hack into your organization. Okay. Now, it gets a little bit worse, I'm sorry to say. Because as much as we are all excited about ChatGPT, right, it makes our job very easy. I chat GPT, okay? When it becomes easier, right? Instead of going and doing a whole Google search, you can do it. If I have it, the Yang has it. Am I right? So if I have access to ChatGPT, my criminals have access to ChatGPT. So do not think you are smarter than them. They have access to it. And they are using it in a negative way, okay? To reach you. Okay? And it's amazing what you can do. I don't think ChatGPT is the only one. There's quite a few out there, right, that you can utilize. I mean, think of the voice one, where people can mimic your voice. Okay, I can sound like Morgan Freeman, which would be much more sexier than me, right? But I could sound like him. This is great for you guys. Okay, you can pat yourself on the back because you're one of these people. So if you look at it, the job market is phenomenal, right, for cybersecurity professional. But are you a true cybersecurity professional or you're a product specialist? Check yourself out there, right? Because you've got to understand the basic concept, the basic tenets. What is CIA? Start off with that. Can you answer that? Confidentiality, integrity, availability. Okay? Do not be just a product job. Understand the ecosystem that you are currently trying to manage and navigate. Okay? Most important, you've got to be innovative. You have to be innovative. Traditional means of solving things are not going to help you. Okay? I'll give you an example of innovation, right? So we've got, you'll all know, we all understand the South African market and the difficulty we have with policing, okay? Especially with the guns, okay? There's always guns being lost and so forth. That's what we are doing. We've actually progressed to the point where we have built a digital gun. Okay? I can track a gun, which we have designed and built. A gun, 24/7. I can give you precise locations, all of that. This is the power of digitization. You have to think of innovation coupled with digital to actually solve the current and future problems. We can't look at it there. I can get to the point of give you an exact location, and as an example, if the guy walks up and then does that, I'll tell you how many steps he has taken before he pulled his gun out. I can tell you what direction he chose to shoot it in. So you gotta think differently in terms of how you navigate this world, because the crimes are changing. Our solutions have to change. It just makes practical sense, doesn't it? Okay? Okay, and this will be my last slide, I promise. Okay, so if you look at the MGM attack, okay, you look at what they did. Okay, this was actually done by another organization. Reconnaissance is so important, like you would do in the military. I would sit there and learn about your organization, and I would try to understand how your organization operates. This is what my ethical hackers do. They spend 2 weeks before they engage with a particular client. They'll spend 2 weeks. Number one, visiting the physical premises of the environment. Number two, understanding through LinkedIn, through Facebook, who's employed. We will actually categorize how you create your email. Okay? Then I just have to change it. Okay? Like, I would work out that government is .za and then so forth. I would work out your email addresses. I would learn so much about your organization, and then I would target. So the first thing is gather evidence about MGM and its employees. Remember? First line of defense. Okay? Second is, then I start choosing who's the negligent one. Remember the human factor, the behavior aspect. As much as I'm monitoring you from a positive point of view, they are monitoring you from a negative point of view, finding gaps. So I target. Then I say, these two guys are easy. Security is lax. They password are lax. Okay? Then you go perform a voice phishing attack, right? They contacted MGM's IT desk. They impersonated a privileged user, which was you. Okay, the guy was lax. Okay, get IT to reset their multi-factor authentication. See, they bypass the security features you have. Why? Human factor. Okay. Okay, get IT to reset the victim's user. Then we compromise Okta. You'll all know Okta. Okay, administrator and then more admin. Right, got all rights. Okay, now I get to point 5. Alex, I'm in now. I'm in. Okay, I can make it visible that I'm in, or I can sit there and just observe, and then wait for the right time. Okay, to extract that information. This is it's not as sophisticated as you would think. All right, because it was down to a user. Once I got the user's detail, I won't mention the organization, but we did a massive one in South Africa, where we spent time. They told us, tell me how you would get in and how far you can get into the organization. Okay? Major institution, what we did. So they told us, give me the landscape and the attack surface that you would utilize to actually breach you. Okay? So we went physically, parked outside the place. Now, you've got to understand, in order to protect your organization, you've got to work in concert. You cannot divorce the cyber world from your physical world because they are symbiotic. Okay? Because in order for me to breach you, if you do not have the right physical structures in place, I can walk into your data center and plug a USB, a malicious malware, easily enough, without the security guard. So it does play a key role. Okay? But when it came to this, we spent, number one, we parked outside the premises, which was a private premises, and my guy had his boot open, he had his generator running because he had needed power to brute force the Wi-Fi. And no one asked us questions. What are you doing here? Why is your boot open? Right? So we breached their Wi-Fi. We breached their credential. Then we bypassed the infrastructure, right? Just to make it fun. Okay? And that's how we would do it. So you can imagine the motive that a cyber hacker has to commit a crime is much more, because it's his livelihood. Okay? Whereas it's your livelihood, but you have more than just that as a life. Okay? You have a family, etc., etc. They just live for money. Okay? So their motive is so much stronger. So it's important that as much as you think, this physical world doesn't touch me, it does. And you, as cybersecurity professionals, need to educate the physical guys in terms of, please, leave the acronyms at home. Okay? Talk business language. As I said to you, is cybersecurity too hard? I actually think it's the perfect job for me, for a type of person. Right? Number one, it's humbling. I do not think it's too hard. I think what the problem is, you tend to approach it like any other job. Unfortunately, you are special. Okay? Understanding cybersecurity or understanding information security and the threats, it makes you special. You are one of the few people that actually comprehends the difficulties and the challenges that we have. Okay? So, what it requires is discipline, commitment, enterprise buy-in, which is fundamental. Your employees, you have to figure out how to educate them. Because a simple video that you showcase on a guy's machine is not going to work. I've seen it. I promise you I'm one of those culprits. Oh, they sent me another video. Let's play it. And I get my secretary to actually view it. Right? What am I then? But I'll give you an example of what we did. One of the law firms, and quite a few of them now, that approached us, where we do training, in-person training. Okay? So you can imagine lawyers are the biggest assholes around, trust me, okay? And the most difficult, because they know it all, okay? So what we did was, we said, okay, fine. There was 400 of them. Can I have 2 volunteers from the 400? Okay, I'm not going to embarrass them or anything like that. And what I would do is use, not hack, I would use socially available information to show you how I would hack your organization and the individual itself. Okay? And what we did was, we literally were able to do that. Where we found one of the directors, and just as an advice, and it's not a sexist statement, so please do not take it in that way. You women share too much on Facebook. You're not the easiest targets, because you'll put everything out there, okay, about your children. And I know you're proud, but do not share pictures of your children and where they go to, because I use that information. So as an example, this director of this law firm shared that her child went to a certain preparatory school, right? And was sick at a particular time and so forth. And she was sharing this with her community. We got it. I mean, it was an open Facebook, so we were viewing it. I used that information to create, forge an invoice from Bryant Park Preparatory School. Okay? I sent it from an email address that purported to be the school. Being unaware, and what's most important to a middle-aged woman, her children, anything related to her children. So I profiled her. 30 seconds later, she clicked on the link. I was in. Then I sat. I had access to a camera. I took all her keystrokes. I had access to her credentials, so I could legitimately send mails out to the rest of the organization. Then I was able to infiltrate the rest of the organization, and then just to put some cherries on the top, I just paid myself, which I paid back, just to prove the point. Okay, that's how awareness should be given. Okay, because we take it for granted, people understand it. No, do not take it for granted. And it's important because in my world, cybersecurity is a life skill. It's like freaking crossing a road these days. If you think about it, we were taught in schools, look left, right, look right, again, then cross and walk briskly, do not run. Okay? How many of you have taught your kids about cyber? How many of you have been taught about cyber and the difficulties and the challenges that you have? Okay? We have just taken it on because why? We are agile. Human beings are agile. We adapt. We move on. We do not get held back. Okay? We find a way, but it's important that you transfer the knowledge that you have to your business guys. Okay? And actually, I put this question onto my team of professionals. Okay? Most of them have been in the industry for 20 plus years. Okay? And this is what they said. Okay? To have the 5 critical aspects of creating a robust cyber environment, know what you are controlling. Okay? How many of you have a CMDB that you can rely on? Don't shout. Don't shout. Don't answer. Okay? I have yet to come across an organization that runs a proper CMDB. Okay? Then you've got to take the CMDB and slice that. What is critical to you, what is not critical. Okay? And then you've got to apply controls. Then you've got to apply governance to it. That's how you look at visibility. When we talk about visibility, it's not just knowing an asset register. It's knowing that asset in and out. Where is it located? Who's using it? Who has access to it? What does it have access? What does the device have access to? Etc. That's your value chain that you have to empower yourself. So visibility is important. Operational proficiency, people don't realize this. It's about your processes that back up your strategy. Okay? Many people neglect this. I go into organizations, so how does this work? Oh no, we just talk to that guy. No, it just doesn't talk like that. Okay? You've got to have a process. When that person is not there, how do you actually address the problem? Okay? That's called resiliency. So your operational proficiency is critical. Technology plays a role because it makes it easier for us. Okay? It has the ability to harvest a lot of information and analyze a lot of information and give you an output. So technology enables you, but it shouldn't be your single point of solution or your silver bullet. Okay? As I said to you, you are here to serve business. How many of you actually have a monthly session with business? Because business strategy changes quite often, right? They're quite fluid because things come up. You have to move with the times. So it's important that you meet with business and understand their strategy. And lastly, which is the peg in the ground, your culture. What sort of culture do you have in your organization? Move towards a culture that is knowledgeable, is empowered to make a decision. And fundamentally, you do not want the guy to know how to solve a problem. You want him to know who to contact to solve that problem. Okay? Because the visibility around the number of incidents in your organization, you should have a proper handle on that. Okay? And lastly, which is continuous learning, and this is what people realize. So most of you will eventually become CISOs, I would assume. Right? That's your aspiration. When you do become a CISO, you have not arrived. Okay? You may be a CISO. But it's what you do as a CISO that makes you arrive. Okay? It's very important. Do not think I have the position. The position comes with huge accountability. Because you are handling you are responsible for my identity. People do not understand this. So for example, if you get compromised, if your credentials, my identity gets compromised by an organization like LinkedIn, who faces the consequences? Does LinkedIn face the consequences, or do I face the consequences? And for what duration? Because once my identity number is known, it's known. It doesn't really say once it's on the internet, it's on the internet. Okay? LinkedIn doesn't deal with that problem. I deal with the consequences. So that's how important your role is. Because you are protecting me, my identity. So do not take your job as if it's customer service. It's beyond that. Right? You are protecting my identity and my future. Because with my identity and certain other credentials, I create a fake identity. And that's when I can become really nasty, right? And ruin your life. So when you do become CISOs, okay? Remember, huge responsibilities, huge accountabilities, and you've got to live the job. You've got to live the job. Okay. these are the last slide. Are we prepared? I'm Indian, right? I'm going to try my luck. Are we prepared for accelerated digitization? Ask your organization. You need to be introspective, all right? And be realistic, okay? Because it will help you. I always say, in cybersecurity, what has helped me in good stead is transparency and truth. The reality may be bleak, but I will tell you what the reality is, because it will help us in terms of building for the future. Right? Do not try to hide because you want a good bonus or you want a good rating. Okay? Think of this. You are bettering, you are responsible for individuals' lives going forward. Okay? So do the right thing, always. Okay? Are we looking far enough to understand today's technology investments and what will be the implications in the future? Okay? And then questions, as I said to you, the cybersecurity environment is not completely mature. So some governments have not decided what legislation needs to be rolled out. Most organizations have not figured out where cybersecurity should sit. Should it still report to the CIO? Should it report to the chief risk officer? Should it report to the CEO directly, as an example? Should it perform a function as independent as internal audit because of the issues that you have with management? Okay. So those are the sort of questions that need to be answered, that begs to be answered, that we do not have absolute clarity on. Okay. What standard of care should we expect? If I'm giving my information to you guys, which you do have, okay, what responsibility how should I hold you accountable? What recourse as an end user do I have? So those are the issues that we have that we haven't addressed, okay? And importantly, and to end it off, I think importantly you got to realize cybersecurity is a full-time job. It means that you have to have your finger on the pulse, and it sounds like a cliche, but I would expect you to know, as a CISO or as an IT manager, security manager, how many devices am I managing? What's the status of those devices? All of those sorts of things. I look at it from this point of view, and I was talking to the gentleman earlier, I was saying, I did a keynote speech at the IT Security Summit. And I promise you I could have delivered the same speech here and you would have thought it was relevant. Because the same problems that we were having in 2010, we have not resolved. Now you can put up your hand. How many of you have patch management issue? Endpoint device management issue? Where coverage is an issue? Okay? Still a problem. But, damn it, we still do it the same way. How come we haven't changed? So we get a Nessus, or we get a Qualys, we do a scan, it tells us these are the vulnerabilities, and then we give it to infrastructure, and our compliance figures are always like 60, 70%. Why can't you get to 100%? Because we are doing it incorrectly. Okay? Take a risk-based approach to it. Look at it from that point of view. And on that note, thank you very much for your patience. I do apologize.